Hi guys, welcome to my channel. In this video we are going to start a new weekly series which focuses on using heroes and villains in Star Wars Battlefront 2. This series will focus solely on the Galactic Assault game mode. Why am I doing this? Well, if you have any experience with Battlefront 2, you will know that playing as a hero in this game is a far more challenging experience than on the first game. The amount of times I have seen people attempt to face down entire enemy teams with a laser sword is bordering on ridiculous. As such, I want to capture my own footage playing as heroes and villains across different maps in order to provide useful hints and tips which hopefully you can use when playing the game. Today we'll be starting with Yoda, a popular hero on Battlefront 2 whose role, at least in my opinion, is widely misunderstood by many players. I'm going to go through his basic abilities, followed by his strengths and weaknesses, before finally considering how to play as him on Galactic Assault. Everything I say is backed up by the footage you will see today. If you do like this video, please press like and subscribe for more content in the future. Also, please watch the video until the end if you want to find out which villain I'll be covering in my next video. Yoda has 3 abilities, all of which are useful on Galactic Assault. His Presence ability temporarily boosts Yoda's health, as well as any teammates close enough to Yoda upon the ability's activation. He also starts out with 2 dash attacks, which when triggered send Yoda flying forward quickly while swinging his lightsaber through the air. This damages any enemies he makes contact with. Both dashes can be used in quick succession, but after this they will take a limited time to recharge. Finally, his Unleash ability is essentially a force push, with a mechanic unique to Yoda which allows him to absorb blaster fire. This in turn gives Unleash extended reach and makes it more powerful. In terms of his basic abilities, Yoda is armed with his renowned green lightsaber which deals 80 damage per hit. Yoda is also able to jump quite high relative to his small size, as is the case with other Jedi heroes. And as already mentioned, he can block blaster fire. When his block is activated, he absorbs all blaster fire which comes from in front of him. He can do this until he runs out of stamina, although usually it is used in conjunction with his Unleash ability. Now we have discussed the fundamentals, let's consider the key strengths and weaknesses you need to bear in mind when using Yoda. The most obvious strength that is completely unique to Yoda is his small size. He is very difficult to spot, and even if the enemy does spot Yoda, he is extremely tough to hit, especially when he is on the move. He can also make use of cover that other heroes can't, and in theory this allows you to take more liberties with Yoda than you would with other larger heroes. This is not the only strength unique to our little green friend. He also provides a perfect counter to one of the most frustrating hero killers in the game currently. Yes, that's right, Yoda can face off against sentry gunners. His block ability allows him to absorb supercharged sentry fire, just as well as any other blaster fire, and there is no other hero in the game currently that can do this. Another great strength of Yoda's is his Presence ability. He is the only current lightsaber hero able to buff his own health and his teammates temporarily. This makes him an extremely resilient team player in the right hands. Do not underestimate this ability. Used at the right time, it can quite simply be the difference between winning and losing, and that's from personal experience. Finally, Yoda's Unleash ability is excellent for a variety of purposes. It can be used to push away pursuing villains, ensuring a quick getaway for Yoda. It can also obliterate large numbers of enemies standing directly in front of Yoda when he is absorbing blaster fire. It can therefore be both incredibly offensive as well as an effective defensive mechanism. Now we have considered Yoda's strengths, let's turn to his weaknesses. His first major weakness is his base lightsaber damage output. It's hard not to judge him by his size when he can only register 80 damage with one hit. This is not enough to one-hit kill a specialist, never mind a heavy trooper which would take Yoda 3 hits. This is the lowest damage output of any of the lightsaber heroes, and this certainly leaves him vulnerable and reduces his offensive capabilities. Yoda's second weakness also centers on his lightsaber attack, and you can see this in some of the footage used for this video. Specifically, his lightsaber animation is slow and clunky, making it easy for troopers to roll away and blast Yoda whilst he is still swinging his lightsaber aimlessly in mid-air. This further reduces his damage output in terms of how quickly he can damage enemies, and mashing his primary lightsaber attack too often is therefore a surefire way of getting Yoda killed. His last weakness is the most problematic, and I see people getting Yoda killed regularly because of this. He is terrible against other villains, and the reason is quite simple. They hit harder and faster than Yoda, and if you stand there attempting to trade with another lightsaber villain, you absolutely will die. Think about it. Have you ever seen Yoda defeat any villain with his lightsaber in the Star Wars films? No, this is obviously the reason. So now we have reflected on each of Yoda's weaknesses and strengths, let's turn to the most important part of today's video. Namely, how to use Yoda effectively on Galactic Assault. My first tip is to use Yoda as a trooper killer. Fortunately, his dash attack does 120 damage, and if you combine this with a follow-up dash attack, or base lightsaber swing, that should be enough to deal with most troopers, providing that they aren't buffed. My strategy is always to activate presence, and then go and pick off isolated troopers, then wait for your abilities to regenerate, rinse and repeat. If you ever feel overwhelmed, then look for a swift exit. Don't stand there mashing your lightsaber attack, you will be finished off quickly if you do this. To make you difficult to hit, combine Yoda's dash attacks with his unlimited jumping capabilities, and you should be able to deal with small groups of enemies easily. My second tip concerns how to deal with other villains. If you happen to be away from your team and a villain is pursuing you, make sure you have presence activated and just try to run back to your team, who should make short work of your pursuer. You can also use Unleash to push back and therefore temporarily halt pursuing villains. You will face this problem a lot, as most players playing as villains will recognise that Yoda is a fairly easy kill for them. I make two exceptions for fighting villains. First of all, you might consider doing so if the villain is low on health, but more frequently, feel free to engage with villains if you have your teammates helping you out. All it takes is one use of Unleash, and your teammates should finish off the villain very quickly. As you can see from the footage on this video, I only ever fight villains on this basis. In order to really master Yoda, you must learn to effectively use his Unleash ability, and I'm going to walk you through how to go about doing this. I use this primarily at choke points, including narrow corridors and small doorways. I'm thinking Phase 2 Kashyyyk, as is shown on the footage, the corridors on the third phase of Crait, or the third phase of Kamino. There are plenty of other examples, I'm sure. If you place Yoda in front of such choke points and activate block, you should absorb more than enough blaster fire to activate a fully powered Unleash attack. This is because lots of players will be constantly firing through such crowded areas, hoping to score cheap and easy kills. As soon as your Unleash is fully powered, use this on enemies that come into range. You should get quite a few kills using this strategy. This is fantastic for locking down checkpoints, and it makes Yoda a really useful hero for defending objectives. Always bear in mind, however, that if you are alone, this can be a risky strategy. All it takes is one Vanguard or Sentry Gunner to come behind you, and you'll be dead in seconds. As such, I only tend to use this when supported by teammates. Finally, always buff yourself and your teammates as often as possible using presence. I know this sounds obvious, but it makes defending and attacking objectives much easier. It also means you always have some health in hand should something go wrong. All heroes can regenerate some of their base health if it is taken away, but with this ability you always know that Yoda can at least afford to lose the 200 boosted health points he receives upon this ability's activation before the enemy starts to take away Yoda's base health. Considering all these points as a whole, I think the one thing you should remember is that Yoda is not built to be an absolute killing machine. Because of his limited offensive capabilities, you will find yourself picking up lots of assists without going on huge kill streaks, although you should be able to regularly get 25 to 30 streaks if you use my advice. He is a team player, perhaps in my opinion the most valuable team player amongst the light side heroes. Teammates will always appreciate a good Yoda player. If you have made it to the end of today's video, thank you, I hope you have enjoyed it. I'm also very keen to hear other people's thoughts on how to use Yoda. Perhaps you disagree with something I've said, or think I have missed something important, please let me know. My next video will be a guide on how to use Emperor Palpatine. However, after that I am open to hearing people's thoughts on which hero I should do. So please leave me a comment and let me know. Please also leave a like if you have enjoyed today's video, and subscribe to my channel for more Star Wars Battlefront 2 content in the future.